Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you have any basic knowledge of the world of addictions and recovery, you've probably heard of some of the forms of support for people who are in recovery, such as a therapist, a counselor, or you've probably heard of an AA sponsor or an NA sponsor. But there is an important form of support for people in recovery that a lot of people have never heard of. And that is the sober life coach. So, what is a sober life coach and what exactly do they do? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down for you what a sober life coach is, what a sober life coach does, who a sober life coach is for, and some of the differences between a sober life coach and some of the more traditional forms of support for people who are in recovery. So if that sounds good to you, stay tuned because we're going to break it all down right here. So with all that being said, let's get started. So what is a sober life coach? A sober life coach is a certified professional who provides guidance, accountability, and support for people who are striving towards sobriety. A sober life coach is non-clinical, meaning that they are not a licensed mental health professional like a therapist would be. Sober life coaches help their clients to set goals, identify triggers, and develop coping strategies to help the client deal with the triggers and the cravings that they may experience during recovery. A sober life coach also helps their client to build structure, routine, and healthy habits during recovery. And this is very important because clients are more likely to slip up or relapse during time that is unstructured or free time. So sober life coaches will help their clients to structure this free time in a productive way and thus reduce the chances of slipping up and relapsing while in recovery, especially in early recovery. Sober life coaches are typically available in between sessions via email, text message, and phone call. So sober life coaches typically make themselves available in between sessions, not just during a scheduled coaching phone call or coaching session. So who is a sober life coach for? Well, a sober life coach is for someone who wants to get sober but doesn't really know where to start. There are a lot of people who they want to get sober. They can see a life for themselves where they're sober and they're no longer using substances, but they don't know where to start or how to start, and they may not have the support to get started. And so a sober life coach can help to provide that support to help them to get started. A sober life coach can be for someone who is in early recovery and needs ongoing support. Having this support in early recovery is especially important because early recovery is when someone is the most susceptible, then the most vulnerable to slipping up and relapsing. So having this support during early recovery is very important, and a sober life coach can be a very effective support system to help to provide this support to the client during early recovery. A sober life coach can also be for someone who is sober but struggling to maintain it long term. There are people who can get sober and they can maintain this sobriety for a certain period of time, but they cannot have a sustained, successful long-term recovery. And so a sober life coach can help to provide support and accountability for the client and help them to hold the client to their recovery and sobriety goals and help to increase their chances of having a long-term sustained sobriety. So now I'm going to talk about some of the differences between a sober life coach and some of the other forms of support that I made brief mention of in this video. We already talked about what a sober life coach is and what a sober life coach does. So let's talk about how a sober life coach differs from a therapist. Therapists are licensed clinicians who can diagnose and treat mental health conditions, whereas sober life coaching is non-clinical and future focused. So the focus in sober life coaching is on the client's future. Although a client's past is still something that a sober life coach and the client can discuss, if the client wishes to discuss that, the focus for coaching is future focused. It's the future of the client. That being said, the two can complement each other. Sober life coaching and therapy are not mutually exclusive. And there are people who they do go to their therapy sessions, they do go see their therapist, and they work with a sober life coach. So these two forms of support can be complementary, and they can both help a client in recovery. So now I'm going to talk about some of the differences between a sober life coach and a sober companion. So a sober companion is someone who is physically present with the client. They may be present in the client's home while the client is in recovery, and they can help the client to manage the cravings and manage the triggers while they are in recovery. A sober companion may also attend meetings with their client. They may attend, for example, AA meetings or NA meetings and support the client with their physical presence in that way. Now, sober life coaches are typically available remotely during coaching sessions. And I did mention that sober life coaches may also make themselves available via email or text message outside of the context of the sessions. Now, there are some sober life coaches that do integrate aspects of sober companion services into the services that they offer. So there are some sober life coaches who will be physically present and will, for example, attend meetings with their client, or who will meet with the client in a public location during a time of crisis if the client is in crisis. So lastly, I wanted to compare a sober life coach to an AA or NA sponsor. Now, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and NA, Narcotics Anonymous, these are peer-based, volunteer-run organizations that follow a 12-step model, which includes a spiritual component, a belief in a higher power. Sober life coaching is a professionalized service that is personalized to the individual. So it doesn't follow one set program or one set plan. It is personalized to that individual client. Now, the spiritual component works well for a lot of people, but for those who aren't religious and don't consider themselves spiritual or don't believe in a higher power, coaching does not require a spiritual belief or a belief in a higher power. And so sober life coaching might work better for these people because coaching meets the client where they are at that moment in time. Now, that being said, just like with the comparison between the therapist and the sober life coach, these two forms of support are not mutually exclusive. They can both be beneficial and they can complement each other. And there are people who do go to AA meetings or NA meetings and work with their sponsor, and then they also work with their sober life coach. So these two are definitely not mutually exclusive, and they can both be beneficial to someone in recovery. So the bottom line is, a sober life coach can integrate aspects of different support models depending on the needs of the client. And this makes sober life coaching one of the most flexible forms of support available. The between session support element is something that most other forms of support don't offer. Getting support from your doctor or your therapist, doctors and therapists typically operate within specific scheduled appointments and meetings. And if you're having a difficult time outside of the meeting or after the meeting, or, at whatever time you're having a difficulty, you typically couldn't really contact or text message or phone your doctor. and get support from them right away. You would have to schedule your next follow-up appointment with them. And in the meantime, maybe you could call a crisis line or go to the emergency room. But you may not be able to contact them right there in that moment of crisis or when you're having that problem. A sponsor is probably the closest comparison in terms of availability. Sponsors are often encouraged to be available by phone, but sponsors are volunteers, and their availability, it varies depending on the sponsor. The between session availability of a sober life coach, being available by email, being available by phone call, or by text message is something worth differentiating. Recovery doesn't pause or take a break between appointments, and having a professional that you can reach when a craving or a difficult situation hits is very meaningful and can make a big difference. Well, I'd like to thank you for making it to the end of this video. Please let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Have you ever worked with any of these various forms of support? Or a different form of support that I did not mention? Please let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to let me know about generally your experience with addictions and or recovery. If you'd like to know more about working with a sober life coach or what I do professionally, you can feel free to visit my website at www.kickthehabitcoaching.com. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and feel free to subscribe as well if you'd like to see more videos on addictions, recovery, and sober living, because I definitely have more coming. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.